I am Johnny from UltimatePaperMache.com. Even though this is a video on tips for making a Pokemon costume, I'm standing here holding Humpty Dumpty because I finally figured out that a whole lot of people want to make Pokemon costumes this year, and I don't have time to make one myself, put the video up online, and get it all done in time for you to go get the supplies and actually make one for this Halloween. So I'm going to let you use your imagination here, and I'm going to give you exactly the same tips and advice that I'm giving everybody who puts a blog comment or sends me an email about how to make a Pokemon costume, and I am getting tons of them. The way I would do it is exactly the same way that I made my Humpty Dumpty here. I have a whole video on it. I'm going to put a link to it down below. But for the short version, this was made over a balloon. You need one that's a little bit bigger than this, obviously. Pokemon's heads are a whole lot bigger, so you'll probably use an exercise ball. Instead of using paper mache, I used 2 layers of plaster cloth. Really important. Paper mache, you would need at least 8 layers for it to be strong enough. And 8 layers of paper mache take a really, really long time to dry. Because I wanted a nice smooth surface to paint, and plaster cloth, has cloth texture, that might not be what you want for your Pokemon because he looks kind of plasticky. So what you'll need to do is put 1 layer of paper mache over the plaster cloth, just using a regular newspaper and a really easy raw flour and water paste. I've got a recipe for it. I'll put a link to it down below. The whole thing should be completely dry and ready to paint within 24 hours if you put it in front of a fan. That's an enormous difference from what you would have to do if you put on enough layers of paper mache to make it strong enough. Now, the one thing that you would do differently is obviously you're going to have eye holes. You want a few holes for air circulation anyway. If you can stick some up on the top, that would be really handy. Otherwise, it's going to get really hot in here. So once the plaster cloth is dry, draw your eye holes on there, any holes that you need, and then just use a craft knife and cut those out. Then when you put your 1 layer of paper mache on there, go ahead and wrap it around the edges that you've just cut. The edges are going to be a little bit fuzzy because of the plaster cloth has little hairs in it, strings or fibers, let's say. You don't really want those to be sticking out right there. So just go ahead and cover that edge with your paper mache, and it'll be really nice and smooth. Then, like I said, put it in front of a fan. Just stick it up on top of like a wine bottle or something so that air can get through. And it should dry really fast. Then you can go ahead and paint him. And the one thing that you probably also want to do is paint the inside, because plaster does draw moisture from the air. And when you're wearing it, a lot of moisture is going to be on the inside of this thing just because moisture is evaporating from your body and your head. So just give it a coat of paint on the inside as well as on the outside. Now also, if you want to wear this guy out in the rain, do trick-or-treating, you're going to want to use a good varnish on the outside. Varnish won't permanently waterproof it, but for a couple of hours it will offer enough protection, so you should be able to get away with that without it softening. Both plaster and paper mache, neither one of them are waterproof, and so you need to have some kind of protection on there if you're going to be taking them outside. This is by far the fastest way to make a Pokemon costume that I can imagine. If you're wondering where to get the plaster cloth, you can get it in any hobby store. If you don't have a hobby store in town, like we don't, I just go ahead and order mine online from Amazon.com. Now, if you do make a Pokemon costume using any directions at all, however you decide to do it, I really want to see them. I think that is just such a cool idea. So come back to UltimatePaperMache.com. You can leave a photograph of your Pokemon costume. The best place would be the Daily Sculptors page. There's a link to it at the top of every post. And whether you want to do that or not, be sure to come visit Ultimate Paper Mache anyway, because we've got a lot of guest posts out there that don't show up on YouTube. One of them lately has been a really fast way to make pumpkins out of paper mache clay. They're really cute, they're really fast, and if you haven't seen it, you're missing out. So come visit me, UltimatePaperMache.com.